Hey everyone, welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, we're going to be looking at something that you're using right now to listen to this.
Yeah, that's right.
We are going to do a deep dive into listening skills. We found this super interesting podcast episode all about how to improve your listening skills. It's about 25 minutes long, but we're going to break it down into like the most important points and, hopefully uncover a couple of interesting insights along the way.
Yeah, definitely consider this your cheat sheet to becoming a better listener.
I love that. Okay, so this episode jumps right into this idea of active listening. And they're not messing around. They actually quote this author who says that active listening is the foundation of great communication.
Yeah, and it's not just some fluffy feel-good advice.
Right.
The episode actually mentions a study where they found that participants who were multitasking during a conversation, they remembered way less information than the people who were fully present. It's kind of crazy how much our brains actually struggle to juggle tasks.
Right.
Especially when it comes to processing information.
I think we've all been there, you're trying to answer emails while you're on a conference call, and then you realize oh my gosh, I have no idea what was just said.
Exactly.
So distractions are a big no-no. Got it. But what about those subtle cues like body language? The episode mentions nonverbal cues, but what exactly does that mean?
It's almost like a secret language that we all speak. Crossed arms can signal defensiveness.
Oh, yeah.
While leaning forward can show that you're engaged. Even a slight tilt of the head, it can indicate curiosity or maybe even skepticism.
Mm-hmm.
So paying attention to these cues can actually give you a deeper understanding of what the speaker is really feeling and what their intentions might be.
It's like a superpower. And the episode also suggests that we try summarizing what we've heard back to the speaker. Is that really necessary?
Well, think about a time when someone totally misconstrued something that you said. How frustrating was that? Summarizing what you heard doesn't just clarify that you understood what they're saying, but it also shows the speaker, hey, I'm really trying to get you and what you're saying.
Right.
So it can build a lot of trust, ensure that you actually value their words.
That makes a lot of sense. But honestly, sometimes the hardest part is dealing with your own internal distractions, when you're supposed to be listening, but your mind is wandering off to that vacation you're planning or replaying that awkward encounter from earlier.
Oh yeah, I know exactly what you mean. We all have that inner monologue going on.
Right.
The key is to recognize when it's starting to take over and then gently redirect your attention back to the speaker. It's kind of like meditation. You're training your mind to stay present.
Easier said than done, especially when the topic is, well, let's just say not the most captivating.
Yeah, that's true. But that's where empathy can really become your superpower. Imagine yourself in their shoes. What emotions might they be experiencing? What challenges are they facing, even if the topic isn't super thrilling? Connecting with the person behind the words can make a big difference.
It's like remembering that everyone has a story and every story deserves to be heard. The episode really emphasizes committing 100% of our attention to the person speaking. Okay, real talk. I'm addicted to my phone. Any tips on resisting that urge to constantly check it?
Yeah, it's definitely tough. I get it, but setting boundaries is huge.
Yeah.
Can you put your phone in another room during important conversations? Or at least silence your notifications.
Right.
So that way you're removing the temptation and it helps you to actually be present.
Out of sight, out of mind. What about when the person is, shall we say, a bit long-winded?
Yeah.
How do we stay patient and engaged?
Yeah, patience is a muscle we definitely need to flex. Some of these people need a minute to gather their thoughts or express themselves fully. Instead of getting impatient, try focusing on their nonverbal cues. Are they struggling to find the right words? Are they conveying something deeper than their words alone?
So it's about reading between the lines. I like that. The episode also talks about limiting preconceptions, which sounds a lot like approaching conversations with an open mind. How do we avoid letting our own biases take over?
It's a constant process, but it starts with awareness. We all have biases, conscious and unconscious. The key is to actively challenge your assumptions. If you find yourself making snap judgments or filling in the blanks with your own narrative, pause and ask clarifying questions. Seek to understand, don't just try to confirm your existing beliefs.
So it's about being curious, not judgmental.
Right.
Okay, moving on. The episode suggests taking notes, but warns against getting too caught up in scribbling everything down. What's the right balance?
Think of notes like a roadmap highlighting the key landmarks, not a transcript of the entire journey. Jot down keywords, phrases that spark a thought, or questions you want to ask later. Don't forget the real magic happens when you review your notes soon after. It helps solidify the information and spark new insights.
It's like taking a mental snapshot. Speaking of snapshots, Remember that time we tried to have that super important conversation in that crazy loud coffee shop?
Oh, yeah.
Talk about a listening fail.
I definitely remember that. We could barely hear each other think, let alone have a meaningful conversation.
It's like trying to meditate at a rock concert.
Exactly.
The source material hit the nail on the head when they emphasize the importance of the right environment.
Environment can be a deal breaker. It's so much easier to be present and attentive when you're in a calm and comfortable setting free from distractions. And sometimes choosing the right environment means having the courage to say, hey, can we move this conversation to a quieter place?
That's so true. Okay, to wrap up this amazing list of tips they suggest using positive affirmations. Honestly, I thought that was a bit cheesy at first, but now I'm kind of intrigued.
I was too, but it makes sense,
Yeah.
right? You're shifting your mindset and you're boosting your confidence. You're essentially rewiring your brain to embrace the power of listening. Choose an affirmation that resonates with you, like, I am an attentive listener, or I am present in this moment, and repeat it regularly.
It's like giving your listening skills a pep talk. I love that. And they're not just talking about feeling good, right? There's a deeper benefit here.
Absolutely. And it might just surprise you.
Ooh, a cliffhanger. We'll be right back with part 2 after a quick, just kidding, we're diving right in. Stay tuned. So before the break, you were saying something about how improving our listening skills can actually help us understand ourselves better.
Yeah, it's a fascinating concept.
It is.
When you really listen to someone, you're not just like absorbing their words.
Yeah.
You're also tuning into their emotions, their values, like their whole way of seeing the world. And that can act like a mirror, reflecting back your own beliefs and assumptions.
It's like those personality tests where you're like, oh, that's so me. Except this time the insights are coming from real conversations, not like multiple choice questions.
Exactly. And those insights, they can be really powerful. You might realize you share a deep passion for something you've never even considered before. Or you might uncover a bias that you didn't even know you had.
Right.
It can be really eye-opening and sometimes even a little uncomfortable.
Yeah, that's true. Sometimes the things that make us squirm the most are the things we need to hear the most. It's not just about identifying our blind spots, right? It's also about discovering our strengths.
Absolutely. Like, pay attention to what resonates with you during those conversations. What sparks your curiosity? What makes you feel energized? Those are all clues to your own passions and potential.
It's like listening becomes this treasure map leading you to like hidden parts of yourself.
I love that analogy.
The episode didn't just touch on self-awareness. They also talked about listening as a way to boost creativity. And that connection wasn't immediately obvious to me. Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
Think of your mind like a garden. The more diverse the plants, the more vibrant and flourishing the ecosystem. Listening is like planting seeds. Every conversation, every story, every perspective you encounter, it introduces new ideas and possibilities into your mental landscape.
So it's like cross-pollination for the brain. The more we listen, the more we have to draw from when we need to like problem solve or generate ideas, or even just approach a situation with a fresh perspective.
Exactly. There's a reason why so many creative breakthroughs happen. During conversations, brainstorming sessions, even just casual chats. It's that spark of inspiration that comes from connecting with other minds.
It makes me think of those moments when you're stuck on a problem, and then you talk it through with a friend, and suddenly the solution seems obvious. Like, why didn't I think of that before?
Because sometimes we need that outside perspective, that nudge from a different way of thinking, to unlock our own creative potential. And listening is the key that opens that door.
It's like we're unlocking these hidden superpowers within ourselves just by paying attention to what others have to say. This is mind-blowing.
And it gets even more interesting when you consider the impact of listening on our relationships. It's not just about understanding ourselves. It's about building deeper, more meaningful connections with other people.
Right. Think about how good it feels when someone really listens to you. Like they're truly present and engaged in the conversation. It makes you feel seen, heard, and valued.
Exactly. And that feeling of connection is the foundation of strong relationships. When you listen with empathy and intention, you create a safe space for vulnerability, trust, and genuine understanding.
And that's not just true for personal relationships, right? I imagine it's just as important in professional settings, like with teamwork and leadership.
Absolutely. Leaders who listen effectively, they build stronger teams, foster innovation, and create a more inclusive and supportive work environment. It's about valuing every voice and recognizing that everyone has something valuable to contribute.
This is making me rethink my whole approach to listening. It's not just a passive activity. It's an active choice we make to engage with the world around us and the people in it.
And that choice has ripple effects, impacting our relationships, our creativity, our understanding of ourselves. and even our ability to make a positive impact on the world.
Wow, I'm starting to see listening as this incredible force for good, this superpower we can all tap into to create a more connected, compassionate, and creative world.
It's a beautiful thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it all starts with that simple act of choosing to listen.
I am so inspired by this episode. It's given me so much to think about, and I know our listeners are probably feeling the same way.
You know, as we've been talking about all these amazing benefits of listening, it's made me realize that there's a connection here to something we haven't really talked about yet. Intuition.
Oh, that's interesting. I've always thought of intuition as this mystical thing, like a sixth sense. What does that have to do with listening?
Well, intuition is often described as this gut feeling, like this inner knowing that kind of guides us. But where does that knowing come from? I think it's built on a foundation of information, observations, and experiences that we've gathered over time.
So it's not just some magical power. It's actually a product of our subconscious mind processing all the input we receive from the world around us.
Exactly. And a huge part of that input comes from listening. When we really, truly listen, we're not just hearing words. We're picking up on those subtle cues, the patterns and connections that our conscious mind might miss.
So our subconscious is like this master detective piecing together clues from conversations, body language, even tone of voice, to form a deeper understanding of the situation.
Exactly. And that understanding often shows up as those intuitive nudges, those gut feelings that tell us if something feels right or wrong, or whether a person is trustworthy, or whether a decision is aligned with our values.
That makes a lot of sense. So the more we listen, the more we're feeding our intuition, giving it the information it needs to guide us toward better decisions, deeper connections, and ultimately a more fulfilling life.
It really is a beautiful cycle. And it all starts with that conscious choice to be present, to pay attention, to truly listen.
This entire deep dive has been a revelation. I'm walking away with a whole new appreciation for the power of listening. Not just as a communication skill, but as a tool for personal growth, creativity, and even intuition.
That's wonderful to hear, and I hope our listeners are feeling inspired to start their own listening journeys, to explore all the incredible benefits that come when they choose to open their ears and their minds and their hearts to the world around them.
This has been such an inspiring conversation. Thank you so much for being here and sharing your insights with us.
It was my pleasure.
And to our amazing listeners, thank you for joining us on The Deep Dive. We'll be back soon with another deep dive, so be sure to subscribe so you don't miss it.